Hello, and welcome to the Manufacturing Better Content webinar. My name is Jeff White, and I'll be your host. I'm one of the principals of Kula Partners, and we are Canada's only digital marketing agency specifically created for manufacturers. Our client base spans all of North America as well as Europe, and we focus specifically on leading manufacturers who are looking to digitally transform their marketing and sales to help deliver more leads, close more of those leads, and grow their competitive edge against their competition. Here's what we're going to be covering today. We're going to talk a bit about buyer personas and their importance in the content planning process, as well as the other elements that are required as you go about planning content for your website. We're going to talk about content that serves three masters and how and why that's important for your site, and how to think about that content from a conversion out perspective as opposed to an acquisition in. And we'll be talking a little bit about the math that's involved in bringing more people to your site versus converting the traffic that you already have. I'll also be talking about interactive and non-traditional content and how it can play an important role in increasing the conversion and usability of your website. So let's dive right in and begin talking about buyer personas and content planning. I think at this point, most marketers are familiar with the concept of a buyer persona. The vast majority of people who are creating personas are doing so from the perspective of demographic and psychographic information, the identifiers of the type of people that they're looking to attract to their site. We tend to take things a little bit further when we think about buyer personas. We're very interested in what the marketing triggers are that are causing one of your potential customers to come and find you and seek you out. What is the thing that's going on in their world that is causing them to look for a particular piece of content or for a particular solution? And we're also interested in finding out what the objections of those prospects are as they begin to move down into your funnel and come into your world. What are the things that you're hearing from your salespeople all the time about, what are the questions that their potential prospects and customers have? And how can we use content to answer those questions? And as we build out these buyer personas, it gives us a bit of a guide as to how we're going to be building content for the site, creating the site itself, and planning content from an ongoing basis for marketing and sales. This process is informed through a number of different bits of research. So first of all, we'll be looking a lot at the current site visitors to your website. We're looking at the channels that are bringing them here. What keywords are they using for organic search to find you? What are you getting in terms of paid search traffic? The one thing that we know is that the people who are already coming to your site before it is optimized are potentially more interested than the traffic you might get if you were to advertise or develop content to bring people in more broadly. The people who are already finding you have a higher propensity for converting on your site. Unfortunately, most manufacturers' sites have only one option for conversion, and that's a contact us form. And while that is very useful because the people who do take the time to fill out a contact form are generally fairly far down the funnel, it doesn't allow you to talk to people who are further up and earlier in their decision-making process. And that's where taking the time to analyze the types of people that are coming to the site right now and analyze how you're getting that traffic will help you to create better content as you move forward. Another thing that we're looking at, of course, although keywords themselves as an entity are harder than ever to use as just a specific thing for choosing what content to create, they are still an incredibly important component of a content strategy. We need to know how you're doing in terms of ranking for specific keywords that are relevant to your industry, how you might be ranking when it comes to your competitors, how you're doing with tools such as AdWords and other paid search type content marketing tools. So we use a number of different applications to try to get to the bottom of how you're doing from a content and keyword perspective. These include things like the Google AdWords Keyword Planner tool and HubSpot, as well as SEMrush and a number of other pieces. But at the end of the day, what we're really looking to do is to develop a good understanding of how you're being found and how you might like to be found, and what content you need to create in order to be found for the things that you are specializing in. When it comes to content planning, after we've looked at the people who are coming to the site and how they're getting there, as well as the types of keywords that they're using to find you, and the kinds of potential traffic that are available for those specific keywords, we look at a very deep guide to planning content for the basic site itself that allows us to structure a site in such a way that the important keywords actually are part of the navigation of the site. We know that Google places more emphasis and more importance on navigation items that are further up the tree, so not submenus and not generalized categories such as products and services, but instead using the terms of the actual products that you make and that you sell and using those as the navigational elements. As part of this, we're also looking at what are the title tags on those particular pages? What are the headings that we're going to use? And then lastly, what's the meta description that is going to describe what users are going to find on that page? And while meta descriptions used to be particularly important from an SEO perspective in that they actually had something to do with ranking your site, now they're more like advertising copy where you're trying to use that little blurb on the search engine results page or the SERP page that is like advertising copy to try and entice someone to click on your result in that search engine result listing. So it's a really important part of the overall search methodology in terms of getting people interested in the content that you have. But really what we're trying to do at this stage is establish exactly what we're looking to be found for, how we're going to use that content on the page, what are the important titles and headings that are going to be used, and use all of that to try and gain additional search traffic through well-crafted and structured content. Another part of this is ongoing content planning for marketing purposes. And usually the way that this is created is when we're looking at establishing a funnel for traffic as it comes into the site. We're looking at the top of the funnel, the middle of the funnel, and the bottom of the funnel, and what are the pieces of content that we're crafting and making available at each of those phases in order to address those objections, create content that spurs people to find you based on their marketing triggers, as we talked about with the personas. The other thing that's really important is that we don't want to have too many personas. We have had some clients in the past who think that they might have 12 or even 20 different personas, when in reality what they have is 3 to 5 personas with some variations in between. And the reason that this is important is that content is incredibly expensive to create, whether it's being created internally by a marketing department within your manufacturing organization or whether you're hiring an agency to do it. The fact of the matter is content costs a lot to create. And with 50% of marketers or marketing manufacturers having a small or one-person content marketing team internally, we know that that single person or those couple of people are going to have a very hard time keeping up with everything that needs to be built in order to attract and convert that traffic. So, and those stats come from the Content Marketing Institute's survey of manufacturers for 2018. And I've got a few other stats that I'll be mentioning throughout this presentation. So as we're looking at content planning for ongoing marketing, we're going to look at what is that asset that we're creating at the top of the funnel, the thing that is going to get people to click through and give us their name and email address so that we have permission to market to them. And this is essential because once people come into your funnel, that is when you actually now are able to bring them into your world and use marketing automation and other tools to actually make your content available to them, as well as find out what their requirements are and anything else that you might need in order to turn that prospect into a customer. Now let's talk about content that serves three masters, because I think that this is absolutely essential in terms of how we think about the content that we have on our websites and what it needs to do in order to be truly useful, because as I noted earlier, content is extremely expensive to produce. So when we are producing it, we should be making sure that it takes care of serving these three masters. So the first master, obviously, is conversion. So this is the key tenet in an inbound marketing and content marketing funnel, in that once people arrive into our world, what is it that we're offering up that is good enough that they're willing to give us their name and email address in order to get it? And this can be an ebook, it can be a white paper, it can be any number of different things, but we need to create content that facilitates conversion. Of course, that same content that is facilitating conversion should also be facilitating organic search traffic and be created in such a way so that it can be found. Because if you can't be found, then you can't actually get somebody to convert. And lastly, the third master is sales. So how can we create content that is not only useful to people who are coming into our funnel via the website, but how can we also create things that are going to be useful from a salesperson's perspective that they can then use in order to send out as part of a prospecting sequence or for referencing as part of a specific outreach program that they might have on the go. And I've got a few examples for you that I'm going to get into here. So if we're looking at search, and I'm going to use an example of a post and structure within the Kula Partners site, and this is a post on inbound optimized website redesign, and you can see in the middle of the screen here the actual search engine result that you would see on the SERP page itself. You'll note the meta description, the make the most of your website redesign project by nailing the fundamental inbound marketing elements it needs for optimal performance. So the thing that we're talking about here is trying to ensure that this piece of content is getting found for the website redesign keywords and inbound optimized keywords. And you'll note on the far right hand side of the screen that this is a really long blog post. And one of the things that we know about what Google is actually putting importance on is it's looking for pieces of content that are very well thought out, that are well organized. You'll note we have subheadings all the way down through the page. Those allow people to easily skim the content and see what they're interested in as they go through it. And we know that Google is actually prioritizing content that is over 1,500 words. So the days of producing 300, 400, 500 word blog posts are over. And instead, we're looking to create these pieces of content that are extremely focused and relevant, but also robust and covering a lot of ground. You may have heard mention of the idea of pillar content, and this is where you have one key piece of content. It could be your conversion asset that sits at the center of a number of different blog posts and other pieces of on-site content that all link to each other, creating a grouping of different pieces of content that all reference the same kinds of concepts. And this is the kind of thing that helps show Google and other search engines that you are an authority on the things that you're talking about. So we have a single asset that is powering this. You can see it on this next screen, this conversion page. So this is the website redesign guide for manufacturers. It's a 50 or 60 page ebook that is very robust and has a lot of information about all kinds of different things as it relates to website redesign for manufacturers, and has an opportunity for people to fill out a form and convert, give us their name and email address and any other information we might look for so that they can begin to get into our world and see what's actually happening and give us their name and email address so that we can begin selling them and marketing to them. And what you're seeing here is actually the landing page for that particular guide. It is linked to as a call to action on every blog post that is about website redesign for manufacturers on our site. There are probably about a half dozen of them, and that's what helps us begin to bring in organic traffic for this website redesign term. Lastly, from a sales perspective, one of the things that we have found and that our clients have found frequently is that the more that they're talking about a specific issue, they can use content within their funnel and within their prospecting sequences to address those specific objections that their personas might have. So we know that frequently in our conversations with manufacturers that they often have concerns about the importance of mobile. They've seen their mobile traffic going up and up and up over the last number of years. So we've actually addressed that as a whole section within the website redesign guide. We also know that people are very interested and concerned about the content management system that they might be using on their website. So we have a whole section on that as well. And effectively, what you have here is a single piece of content that can spin out multiple other pieces of content, blog posts and site content and other things like that, on each one of those key sections. And I'll show you in a few moments a diagram of exactly what that looks like. So this content that serves three masters is really designed around creating a single point of conversion that people can give you their name and email address on so that you can market to them, with content that is sprayed out from there for blog posts and other things that get picked up by search engines so that you can be found in search, while also creating things that are going to easily and readily be of great use to your sales team so that they can actually use those pieces of content to address the specific concerns and objections that their prospects might have. So that's how we use that for ourselves and for our clients in order to create content once and reuse it and repurpose it across many different channels. I'm going to talk a bit now about thinking conversion out as opposed to acquisition in. And you'll see here what we've drawn on the screen is a typical sales funnel. We have the top of funnel, the middle of funnel, and the bottom of funnel. At the top of the funnel are all the things that are used to bring traffic into your site, whether that's blogging or search campaigns or paid search campaigns, podcasts, videos, social media, all of that different kind of stuff. And this is great, and it helps to bring in the traffic that you're going to need in order to be able to talk to the people who are interested in the products that you sell. But until people actually come to that conversion point, click on the call to action and enter their name and email address, they're just nameless, faceless visitors, and we don't really necessarily know, even though we've created personas to try and attract the right kind of people to the site. Until they've given us their information, we don't know who they are. So this conversion point is the single most important thing on the site. And we see a lot of manufacturing websites that have lots of great content, but no opportunity for conversion. And what we're encouraging our manufacturing clients to do is think about that conversion point and start from there, as opposed to thinking from, we need to get more traffic into the site. Yes, you can get more traffic into the site, but if you're not offering them something that they can convert on, they're always going to be nameless, faceless visitors until they raise their hand at the very bottom of the funnel and suggest that they might be interested in talking to someone in sales. So instead of asking the question, what can we create that will bring more people to our site? We should be asking the question, what can we create that will get more of our current site visitors to tell us who they are and give us permission to talk to them, again, via email or other means? Because we know that for every 100 people on your website that are coming to the site, you may only be able to turn one into a customer. But what if we can convert more than 1% of that traffic? What if we can actually increase the conversion of the site so that instead of that, we have 4 or even more people converting for every 100 that come in? I'm going to talk a bit more about that in just a moment. But first, I want to show you exactly how we think about this conversion asset. And I spoke about this a few moments ago. But if you have that conversion asset, whether it's an ebook or an interactive calculator or some other piece of content that's available on your site, that content is usually very robust and has a lot of different elements to it. Spinning out of that ebook, you might have 8, 10, 12, 14 blog posts on each of the different topics that are covered in the ebook, for example. Each one of those blog posts can spur dozens of social media posts that help to bring in people to the site. So because we're creating content that serves all of these different masters, we're able to use and reuse that content for many different purposes and use that ebook to spawn relevant social media posts on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, and other things, as well as giving us a guide for creating the longer form blog posts and other content on our site. But you can see exactly how one piece of content can help spur literally hundreds of potential other pieces of content that are used to attract people to the site. So let's do some math. If we have 2,500 visits a month to our website and a 0.5% visitor to lead, V to L conversion rate, not uncommon with people with websites that don't necessarily think about their site as a conversion asset, we're suggesting that 15% of those potential leads might become customers, lead to customer, L to C, resulting in 1.875 customers for your business every month. So imagine then that we spent $30,000 to double the traffic to that site. And that number isn't crazy. That could be the creation of additional pieces of content. It could be the creation of social media posts. It could be buying LinkedIn advertising or Google pay-per-click advertising. There's any number of different ways, but it's not crazy to suggest that we could easily spend $30,000 to double the traffic of the site. This raises our visits per month to 5,000 from 2,500, but we still have that 0.5% V to L rate, and our lead to customer conversion rate isn't changing. This results in under 4 customers per month, which, although better than what we were doing before, it isn't necessarily great. So what if instead of doing that, we spent $10,000 to increase our conversion? Create an ebook guide, put some calls to action on the website, put a landing page in place, all of those things. If we were to do that, it would not be uncommon to be able to raise the visitor to lead conversion rate from 0.5% to a more industry standard 2 to 4%. We have clients who are getting north of that, 7, 8%. Our own website converts at over 10%. So there are a number of different things that you can do in order to increase that conversion rate. And it's not uncommon to be able to grow to something at least as good as 4%. You'll see that with the same amount of visits that we have per month previously, but having spent only $10,000, we were able to increase the number of customers to 15 from that. If we then took the remaining $20,000 to get 1,650 more people to the site, we would then be able to increase the number of customers to nearly 25. And this kind of scenario is not uncommon when you're bringing a conversion-focused lens to a website. So rather than considering spending more time and money trying to bring more and more people to your website, as opposed to getting more of the people who are on your current website to convert, this is an excellent way to get more customers for less money and get more of the right kinds of customers. One of the ways to actually get more people to convert on your site is to utilize something called interactive content. And interactive content is a little bit different from a white paper or a guide or a checklist or an infographic in that it's actually designed to provide a tool to users as they come to the site. And we have found with our clients that the interactive tools generally convert at well over 2 times what the ebooks and others more static types of content that we might use on a website. So it's an excellent way to increase your conversion, provide more in-depth information to your sales team. Remember, we're serving those 3 masters. Sales is obviously one of those. We can collect a lot of really incredible data about people as they find a tool particularly useful. I'm going to show you an example of this. This is a Sundance Spa interactive calculator for hot tubs as placed on one of their distributors' websites. This is something we developed. And what happens with this tool is when someone clicks on that call to action on the hot tubs page, they're taken to a recommendation selector where we capture the user's name and email address so that we are able to store that in our marketing automation tool or CRM off the top. And this way, if anything happens and they don't finish using the tool, we're still able to reach out to them, and we're also able to then capture all of the additional information about those customers as they move through this tool. So once they've given us their name and email address, we take them through a number of questions. There's not too many of them. And these questions have everything to do with the size of the spa you might want, how tall are the people who are going to be using it, what the budget range is that you might have for this. And this is actually something that we were able to do with this recommendation selector that's particularly interesting, is that we found that with the customers who were looking at the lower end of the range in terms of hot tubs, were almost always looking for financing for that hot tub. Whereas people who are looking at the higher end of the range could be marketed to in a different way because they were not interested in financing. So we could focus on other types of marketing automation to those particular people. So as people move through this tool, they eventually get to a screen where it tells them exactly what the recommendations for the particular spas are. And this recommendation is also sent to them as an email so that they have this information in their inbox and can reference it whenever they like. So this is a really fantastic tool that converts at more than double the rate of any of the other hot tub guidebooks that are placed on that website. It's an excellent tool that a manufacturer can make available to their distributors in order to increase the leads that are being sent to their dealers and provide better information, more intelligence on a particular lead to their end customers, simply by capturing all of their wants and desires through this particular tool. And we've used this for all kinds of different customers, from manufacturers of all sorts of different products. So it's a phenomenal way to create an interactive tool that people actually find engaging, interesting, and useful. Now, if you don't have time to create an interactive calculator right away, or you don't have the resources to do it, we know that currently 22% of the content that manufacturers are creating are actually interactive tools, as compared to 50% who are using white papers. This is from the Content Marketing Institute for Manufacturers study that came out this year. We would like to see more and more people begin to use interactive tools because we know that they actually help to deliver them more and better customers and more frequently. One of the ways that you can get there more readily is, instead of delivering your ebooks and white papers as PDF files, we would like to see marketing manufacturers or manufacturer marketers doing away with PDFs and instead utilizing interactive web pages for that. And with this kind of tool, you can actually embed all sorts of different things from the web, whether that's YouTube videos. You can use meeting booking forms like the HubSpot Meetings tool. You can embed other forms within that site, or any other types of calculators and other interactive content. So this is a way that you can get slightly more there than you would be if you're creating a PDF ebook, and providing a lot more useful content for your potential prospects than you can with a PDF. The other thing too is that these web-based guides are also much easier to read on mobile and other platforms like that. So it's a great way to get a bit of a half measure towards creating interactive content. So wrapping up now, I wanted to talk about the key takeaways. Planning your personas is an essential part of starting any sort of engagement like this. You need to understand your persona triggers and objections, so you know why they're coming to you, what kind of questions they're going to ask, and have answers at the ready and content created that you can use to answer those questions potentially before they come up. You can create content that serves search, conversion, and sales. This is the kind of thing that is absolutely essential in terms of serving these three masters. And we want to have content that is readily available for each of these reasons, because we know how expensive it is to produce, and we know that a lot of manufacturers just don't have a lot of internal resources with which to do it. So because that content production is so expensive, we need to make it worthwhile. And unless your conversion rate is already great, don't focus on getting more traffic to your site until you have time to increase your visitor to lead rate. So take the time, fix the conversion problems that you might have on the site, make content available, have a way of capturing someone's name and email address that isn't just a contact us form, and use that before you invest in additional traffic attraction. And if at all possible, because it converts far better than just an ebook or a guide, choose interactive content whenever possible. So I'd like to thank you for joining me on this webinar today. My name again is Jeff White. You can find Kula Partners on the web at kulapartners.com or get us on Twitter at @KulaPartners. We look forward to hearing from you. Thanks.